What's up, everyone? It's your boy Damage Core Live. Today we are reacting to Homelander versus Jujutsu Kaisen. It's embarrassing. Now let's get to the video.
As the strongest character in his universe and one of the most violent and unhinged characters I've ever seen, Homelander stands as one of the most terrifying and intimidating villains in recent television history. Homelander.
First of all, he has said that, but that's only in his universe that he's like that. In other universes, he's not. The affirmation, I think Chucky or it is way scarier than him. It or Chucky and or Jason, I've seen way scarier characters that's more scary than Homelander. That is way less powerful than that nigga. Yeah, even though they don't got the power that they're scariest and the movies and shit, they're more powerful and they're more scarier.
Is someone that only exists in the way that he does due to his power and feelings of superiority over his entire world. Today, I'll be seeing just how far that elitist mindset takes him. And in order to do so, just as I have with many other characters in the past, I'll be placing him against the Jujutsu Kaisen universe, testing the Homelander's real.
So, Homelander versus Jujutsu Kaisen. Let's see it.
Strength. As I do with every cross-verse battle like this, I'll start by establishing the base stats of both camps, namely Homelander. Now, Homelander, much like Gojo and Sukuna, gets the benefit of having all scaling that exists within his universe applied to him as the strongest, so things can remain relatively simple. In regards to his strength and durability, Homelander should at least be able to withstand building level attacks, as he's established to be stronger than Soldier Boy, who
they said that he will always be able to withstand building level attacks, but I seen attacks that can tank a whole country, and Jujutsu Kaisen, their attacks, yeah.
was calced with his last explosion at the end of Season 3 to be able to generate at least that much power. Scaling to this explosion would be pretty consistent with Homelander's abilities as well, as Queen Maeve was able to survive the effects of it without dying, and it's implied or outright stated numerous times in the story that Homelander could kill her at any point with relative ease. When looking at what Homelander has actually done in the mainline TV show, this is probably as high as his strength and durability scaling go, for the simple fact that Soldier Boy and Queen Maeve at this point are the closest things to rivals that Homelander can find, and in their own ways had the ability to match blows with him or outright deal damage to the character. When looking for statements or outside material, however, we come across a feat from The Boys Diabolical, an animated spin-off of the show that has a few canon episodes to the main story, and in the episode 1 + 1 = 2, Homelander is able to survive the heat and concussive force of a chemical plant blowing up directly.
First of all, hey guys, tell me what do you think about this anime? 'Cause I haven't watched the anime yet, but I know it gotta be good. And the comments tell me what part they like of the anime of Homelander.
In his face with minimal damage. Due to the size of the explosion and the chemical plant itself, this feat was calculated to require city block levels of durability on Homelander's part to survive, which is a definitive upscale from his previously established durability and strength. This would basically be the limit of his power unless you look at a statement made by Madeline, in which he says that every weapon on the planet is incapable of harming him, which would logically include weapons of mass.
There isn't a weapon on Earth they haven't thrown at him. They all failed. The fuck is that? The letters in writing. The fuck?
Destruction like nuclear bombs. If this were the case, this would mean that Homelander is capable of withstanding attacks that could level an entire city, which is significantly more impressive than anything he's actually shown on screen. The validity of this statement is rather ambiguous though, as it's only stated at one point in the story by a character who would have much reason to embellish or outright lie about the power of someone that they...
The cosmics also say that a nuke kills Homelander.
considered to be their
It's true or
personal
no?
weapon. Leaving this as a
It's not
potential
true,
high-end
right?
skill for Homelander, though, would mean that he can take nukes to the face without worrying for his life. I want to make clear that this doesn't mean that his attacking power is in the same ballpark, and that would probably more closely align to a city block or even building levels of durability shown more explicitly in the show. In regards to speed,
He can
we know
take
that
bullets,
Homelander can
though.
pretty regularly fly at
Bomb.
speeds exceeding that of sound, as this was recorded when he was
He can
searching for
surpass it.
Translucent in Season 1. This level of casual speed is in line with him being superior to A-Train, whose top recorded speed is when he races against Shockwave, in which he just barely surpasses Mach 1. Being faster than A-Train isn't all that impressive though, as despite being shown to dodge light-like attacks in the show, the surrounding context of this feat explicitly demands that they be slower than legitimate light. A-Train being capable of dodging Starlight's attacks only serves to downplay the speed of the beams, because we know pretty definitively that A-Train, even when at peak performance, doesn't have feats or statements that would justify him scaling to light, much less the mere.
So that's crazy. He can he can come near it, close to it, but he can't. He's not faster than the speed of light. These churches and it shows like they can come near it, but they can never get past it. That's what he's saying.
Death version of the character that performs this feat. That being said, Homelander does seem to be able to greatly surpass his Mach 1.5 speed feat, as he was able to move fast enough to outspeed the explosives Butcher had planted, which places him anywhere from Mach 10 to Mach 18. His travel speed specifically can be.
It's his no. He can travel like Mach 10, Mach 18, Mach 20, or probably like Mach 30. That's good. I don't know how fast that shit is. Tell me if it's fast, because I don't know how fast. I never taken the information myself. Is it faster than light? I don't know that, or is it bypass like is it faster than me?
Pushed above Mach 30 if you take his statement about going to space as anything more than him puffing out his chest in very Homelander-like fashion. It would require speeds 30 times faster than that of sound to reach escape velocity, which is why this statement, if true, would mean that Homelander is capable of at least flying this fast. While not outside the realm of possibility, Mach 30 would certainly be the extent of Homelander's speed based on everything we've seen and been told about him in the Boys universe. The main issue with Homelander's speed, though, is that in most instances, it's shown to be his travel ability rather than his capacity to react to or.
So, his he can travel faster than that, but he is saying that boy he cannot react faster than it. Like his reaction is slow as hell.
Attacks. In fact, we see pretty regularly that Homelander is not a very good close-quarter combatant and relies oftentimes on his superior durability, strength, or heat vision. While he might be fast enough to escape orbit through flight, and that itself is ambiguous, it doesn't necessitate that he can actually combat characters with that level of speed. To keep things simple and in Homelander's favor, though,
right, it don't, because you gonna need more than power and strength and all that shit that Homelander got to make someone actually strong. You gotta know, you have to have battle instincts and know how to like dodge and battle. And no, not battle, but battle experience. And actually know how to fight. The flipping, like if you know how to do none of that shit, you probably work weak yourself.
So we'll just argue that the speed he was able to react to the bombs at, which was anywhere from Mach 10 to Mach 18, would basically be his reaction speed and combat speed in general. This just leaves us to talk about Homelander's basic abilities, but I mean, if you know anything about Superman or just watch The Boys, his powers are pretty self-explanatory. He has your standard superhuman stats that we just went over: super hearing, x-ray vision, a heightened sense of smell, light, and heat vision. Nothing super complex by any means. And with Homelander being sufficiently scaled, we can now look at the Jujutsu Kaisen universe to see how.
Before we look at the Jujutsu Kaisen universe, I want to say this: Homelander can never be like Superman. Superman is the one. He and Homelander. No, Superman is way stronger than Homelander. That's how I would have had to tell you.
They stack up against the strongest soup in the boys. Jujutsu Kaisen has a pretty wide range of characters and levels of strength, so I'll make sure to hit the main feats, calcs, and statements in order to give you guys a good understanding of how powerful characters in this series are from top to bottom. On the relatively low end of JJK characters, you have feats that are calced anywhere from small building level to multi-city block. The random curse that appeared in the first episode of the series is capable of generating small building levels of power. Yuji, before even ingesting
So, like this. This is just the basics, like the base. Like nobody needs for training and or nothing. This is just like their base power, and they're already this strong right here. Like usually he didn't ate a finger yet, but he is this strong.
the first finger of Sukuna is capable of blocking attacks from that same curse, and Megami survives multiple attacks from it head on. This is really about as low as JJK characters can go, as these feats are pulled off by beginning of series level threats. Moving slightly above that on the output totem pole, you have Mekamaru's ultimate cannon feat, which was able to obliterate a decent chunk of the forested area he was fighting in, and was subsequently calced to be city block level. This same attack, while capable of damaging Panda's core, wasn't enough to tear through his physical body, which is a pretty good indication of Panda's external sturdiness. Panda and Mekamaru, while semi-grade ones in their own right, aren't that strong in the grand scheme of Jujutsu. This level of power for lower level JJK characters is pretty...
That's crazy. Like, basically, their power level is almost near, Homelander power level. And that's the almost weakest power level they got. That's crazy. So yeah.
Consistent, especially when considering you have characters like Mahito, who are capable of causing earthquakes on a similar destructive level just by unleashing their curse techniques out in the open. The special grade finger bearer that Megami fights against also has a city block level feat that is derived from it completely expelling Megami's domain with a flash of curse energy. So even for the most conservative Jujutsu Kaisen scaler, it's safe to say that city block level is viable for lower end characters. Moving slightly up.
So city blocks is like, ain't that like Homelander power level? Like that's almost like the very minimum of his power. And that's the weakest. That's like the number basis of power level. Anybody can get there. It's like training. With curse energy. It's crazy.
Up the ladder in the verse, we come across feats that range anywhere from small town to small city level. Ishigoi's Granite Blast in chapter 176, Arame's maximum output Frost Calm in chapter 215, the ice structure Arame also creates in chapter 237, Sukuna's Shibuya Fire Arrow, and...
Right? I heard Sukuna power, by the way. He's strong because look, he had torn a hell ass a brick through the wall. He had like earthquakes and shit. That's crazy.
Drogo's Maximum Meteor are all feats exemplary of this level of output. While many of these feats come from higher tier characters, in many cases like Sukuna's Arrow, Ishigoi...
I've seen that shit before. Sukuna had like threw his arrow at that level guy. Then he had death totem him. That's crazy. I think Sukuna can do the same to Homelander. Right now, I think Sukuna and everybody and JJK is stronger than them niggas.
Granite Blast or Joker's Maximum Meteor, the attacks that cause such damage are far from that character's most powerful. In Sukuna's case, he's missing multiple of his fingers that allow him to reach his full capability.
And again, Sukuna it's not his power more powerful than, but he can almost beat Homelander, or he can already beat Homelander. Like damn, that just shows it that these characters in the show is way out of Homelander league. Like Homelander is strong in the universes, but in other universes, he's actually weak.
And with Ishiguri and Jogo, we know that the creation of their domain and usage of techniques within it should far surpass any of their other abilities. Not only do we know that domains amplify the user's potential, but can
Right, based on the domains. Domains, I'm gonna say they're your anchor. Domains are like strong based on how much curse energy you got. So yeah, and if you got like more like a lot of curse energy, that means you don't have like a badass strong ass um thing. And if and since it amplifies it, you're 10 times or times stronger than your normal power, base power.
Janku also makes it clear that domains are the pinnacle of sorcery. Speaking of
Right.
domains, the domain scaling argument kicks things yet into another gear and makes any character equal or even relative to Dagon and Jogo capable of outputting at least
Mountain
mountain
level.
levels of energy. This is simply because the creation of a domain entails that a
It's
separate
crazy.
space is created from cursed energy, meaning that Jogo's construction of a mountain and Dagon's creation of an island do in fact scale to their output ability. While the outside of the barrier isn't nearly as large, we know that the interior and exterior of the domain are contradictory due to
Right. The interior, the outside interior, they're they're main. I think it like based on a personality or how I don't know how it is because I haven't like read that much too like domains, but based on one I think it's based on your personality. I don't know. I think that it could be wrong though. I don't know.
the manipulation of space granted by barrier techniques in general. This is to say that the outside and inside dimensions of a domain being incongruent isn't an inconsistency within
Yeah,
the
we'll bang
scaling,
your head off.
it's simply a feature of the ability. We know for certain that characters like Gojo, Sukuna, Kenjaku, and Yuta should all be capable of clashing with and winning against the likes of Jogo and Dagon in a domain
True,
battle, which would
true.
place their maximum output of curse energy on that level as well. Now, a mistake I made in the past when using this argument is saying that the domain scaling necessarily correlates to a character's durability or output outside of a domain.
True. You gotta gather. You gotta gather all of the information before you like make assumptions based on these characters, cause it can be false right away. But by mining their domain, it doesn't do it doesn't it doesn't. Let me say it again. It doesn't count based on their endurance. It's not about endurance thing because that's something else. Domains or just powers that can amplify your power more stronger.
And that's just not the case, at least not always. When discussing anomalies like Gojo and Sukuna, that's much more likely, in
Yup.
part because we see Gojo
For sure.
outright tank Jogo's domain attacks, but in most cases, this just wouldn't be an applicable line of reasoning. Instead, characters of this caliber should just be able to exert that much force when using a domain or some other analogous form of cursed energy output. What substantiates the domain scaling a bit more, at least for the higher tiers of JJK characters, comes from Gojo causing an earthquake in chapter 221, and him being stated to be capable of powering an entire country with his power alone in chapter.
See, Gojo is already stronger than Homer. He said Gojo can amplify a whole country with his power alone. By the way, he's by himself. That's crazy.
200. Both instances lead to potential island levels of output being possible on Gojo's part, and in the earthquake feat specifically, it's plausible that Satoru didn't even use any offensive techniques, and the mere unsealing
didn't.
of his power caused
He didn't.
that. in which case the level of strength him and Sukuna have access to would increase even more. If you wanted to, you can push the envelope even further with some planetary statements and feats that come from Yuki's black hole creation, and Sukuna being stated to potentially be a world-ending threat, but these either come from hyper-specific circumstances that likely won't be created in this video, or potential embellishments of the aforementioned character's power and destructive ability. In general, planetary JJK is an extreme highball that's mostly unfounded and contradicted so far. Now, speed-wise, Jujutsu Kaisen can get a bit annoying.
Now we're finished with the speed wise, like anything in JJK strength wise can beat Homelander, by the way. But it based on their strength, it based to the weakest, medium size, to the core, and to the strongest. But most of the main characters and the high gods and JJK can take Homelander powers and use it against him. Like they are way stronger than out of it Homelander league.
But when splitting it up into separate tiers, it does become a bit more manageable. You got low-end feats that would place characters as subsonic due to many being capable of dodging, reacting to, or outright catching gunfire, or some characters perception blitzing others that should have heightened reaction times. While conventional weaponry is stated to be effective against sorcerers by Kenjaku, this is most likely because they can't be sensed with curse energy, more so than the speed and piercing power being a problem for a sorcerer when they are prepared to fight. And I mainly say this because in almost every instance of a gun being used in the story, characters are capable of avoiding it pretty easily. Beyond this, you can account for Choso's piercing blood being faster than sound, and Shibuya Yuji and Arame being able to react to it, albeit with some trouble. Pre-awakened Maki was able to catch a bullet fired at her point blank, and that's
right, like bullets and guns. It doesn't work on the JJK characters. They're either faster than it, or they can stay tanky, or swipe it like a bug. And guns, you've seen guns that were like, they're fast.
To be about 7 times the speed of sound. This level of speed kinda gets contradicted by Naruto's Mach 3 statement upon becoming a curse, so if you believe this is where the verse more accurately scales, then Maki and everyone that is relative to her at this point in the story would be vaguely above that level of speed. There are some ambiguous lightning timer feats that come from Akari or anime versions of Toji, but they are pretty contentious in and of themselves, and probably exist to be more of an eyeball than a super consistent scale for the verse. Just like I did with the boys, I'm gonna nip some light speed scaling in the bud for Jujutsu Kaisen right now. Well, yes, Mythic Beast Amber Kashimo is capable of firing off attacks that are electromagnetic in nature, which would make them at least relativistic. The nature of Sukuna avoiding that attack is far too ambiguous to properly determine if it was a purely speed.
Right, it was pretty a speed buff, or was it just a strength buff? I don't know.
Based feat, or him simply aim dodging. The attack charges in front of Sukuna's face in one panel with Sukuna noticing this, and in the next, the attack is fired and Sukuna avoids it. But aim dodging doesn't necessitate relative speed, especially when in that same fight, a sonic-based attack is able to hit him. And if he were relativistic in speed at this point, an attack moving at the speed of sound would move in literal slow motion from his perspective. This is not to
yeah, because by the way, he can move way faster than the speed of light. They did it before when he was trying to fight people. Like everybody and I ain't going to like just say Sukuna can do it. Basically everybody can do it. That's on tier with Sukuna. Yuji, Gojo, everybody. That's on the same tier as him. And faster than light speed.
Say that Sukuna, as a matter of fact, had to aim dodge Kashima's attack, rather that the feat is too ambiguous to decide whether or not he was able to dodge it purely based on his own reactive speed. What's more consistent for high-end characters and is more concrete is them basically being able to blitz piercing blood and make the speed of sound look really slow, which would require speeds anywhere from 8 to 24 times the speed of sound in Sukuna's case because of how extreme his movements are relative to the attack. As Jujutsu Kaisen speed scaling always is, there's definitely a bit of confusion that can be found when trying to compare different interpretations of feats and statements made by characters within the series, but just as I always do in videos like this, I'll be going over the large range when comparing these two camps. I'll also bring up specific curse techniques and abilities based on individual context, which means we can jump right into the discussion of how Homelander truly does against Jujutsu
Yeah,
Kaisen.
that's it.
I don't know how to say this without sounding like a biased hater.
He weak as hell.
I won't try.
Just say it.
If Homelander steps foot in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe,
He getting
he's
smacked.
getting absolutely cooked
Get on.
by a pretty large portion of the main cast. From a stat perspective, Homelander actually does have the advantage over a decent bit of JJK characters, especially the lower tiers, but he honestly gets outclassed strength-wise pretty early on. The best durability feat Homelander has. You know, the one where the chemical plant blows up in his face? Yeah, well, Ishigori's first on-screen granite blast would literally turn him into ash. That's
Right, that's crazy. Like these niggas only even gotta try to like win. They can just touch that nigga. Pause, by the way. But touch that nigga, or if he can blitz him, chop his head off with ease, and that's a say so. Like one nigga, like he's not winning. Everybody, most of the creators and JJK, like I said, is stronger than that nigga. Like while training, they're stronger than him. We're training, they're stronger than him.
same attack that Ishigori can casually spam
They're
is
using
the
their own
attack
league.
that would take Homelander off the map like it's nothing, at least if you're abiding by his demonstrated feats rather than ambiguous statements, which we will talk about, but first let's talk about what Homelander's actually shown. Now, to give him his credit, Homelander would basically be able to physically overpower characters up until he reaches that special grade, high grade 1 level of character, and then he just gets smacked up with no difficulty, and that's not when accounting for Homelander's lack of skill and arrogance.
crazy.
Even if you were to plug the controller into Homelander and make him fight as intelligently as you possibly could, he would run up to Ishigori, he would run up to Yuta, he would run up to Yuki, Kenjaku, or any of the disaster curse spirits and just get fried in a straight up fight. When leaving Homelander in character, there are honestly a lot of lower tiers that mess him up too. Take Iguruma for example, a character that by all accounts is pretty weak in the physical department. One opening of his domain,
Mentally?
and all of Homelander's powers are getting confiscated without a doubt. And from that point, he'd just be fighting up a mentally frail man with a god complex and no powers. Now, you may rebut this by saying that Homelander has no cursed energy in his universe, and that would extend across verses. But when making videos like this and discussing these kinds of scenarios, I generally approach it from the perspective of any given character being given.
Right. You always you got to know the information based on the biases or the bias. For you can like fact check what you're saying.
And the equivalent of a normal human's amount of cursed energy in Jujutsu Kaisen, which would give him an insignificant amount of the stuff to be caught within a domain. If you don't like this point though, you'd also have to accept that Homelander wouldn't even be able to kill a flyhead due to his lack of cursed energy, and I'm gonna be honest, that's just against the spirit of the match. You have to take some creative liberties in making this line up, but I think just having the characters and their powers interact as they should makes the most sense. Now, even aside from Higuruma's domain, most completed domain expansions just put Homelander through hell. Gojo and Sukuna's domains have obvious results. Yuta's hitting him with all kinds of techniques that he just isn't equipped to counter. Yorozu is erasing him from existence with Perfect Sphere. Kenjaku's crushing him with gravity. Jogo is melting him. Dagon is making him get eaten by fish. And Mahito will irreparably transfigure his soul. Even Megami's incomplete domain has the win con of sinking him into an abyss of endless shadows due to Homelander being incapable of applying cursed energy to his feet. And when acknowledging that Homelander's best attack potency feats are anywhere between building to city block level, well, even low tiers can stand to take attacks from him with.
Right, low tiers can stand to take attack from Homelander, well even the death because they're yeah.
Y'all in danger. Keep in mind, episode 1, Yuji and Megami were getting smacked by a curse with strength feats comparable to Homelander's best. Even without domains, Yuji, Yuta, Maki, Toji, Gojo, Megami, Sukuna, Kashimo, Ishigori, Yuki, Kenjaku, Geto, and several other characters just put the mitts on Homelander to no end. Even with the noted speed difference, it doesn't matter for many of these matchups because his attack potency just sucks. Even if you highball his punches and lasers to city block level, those same attacks would just get tanked.
It just wouldn't be enough.
Panda. So you can imagine how little they'd hurt characters with real solid durability feats. And conversely, the Jujutsu Kaisen characters would not have any trouble hurting Homelander for the most part. Now, this level of embarrassment occurs even when Homelander is 1v1ing a lot of these characters. And I'm sure you can imagine this gap growing exponentially wider with Jujutsu Kaisen being put into effect. Now, if you were to argue that Homelander really is more durable than a nuke, then he'd still get his ass kicked, just by less people. Basically, anyone on Dagon's level and above with a domain would absolutely fry him due to the aforementioned domain.
Like I said, anybody with like a domain can like fry his ass, cause but high tier, mid tiers, they can fry his ass too.
In scaling. Now, a really funny fact popped into my head as I was talking about Homelander getting tossed and turned like a salad, and that's the fact that he just really sucks at fighting when you look at him. Like, you could take Homelander and almost any character in JJK, make it equal stats, and he loses. I'm talking Haruta, I'm talking Nobara, I'm talking Ino, Charles, Awasaka, Haba even, all because he is that unskilled and pretty basic in his moveset and fighting style. Now, this aside doesn't impact the actual outcome of the main topic in this video, but I thought you guys would all get the same kick out of that realization as I did. In any case, even if you highball Homelander's durability and his speed to the highest extent possible, and you place them up against Jujutsu Kaisen's strongest respectively while downplaying them, he still gets absolutely cooked. Gojo doesn't even need Infinity to assist him in the fight, as his his
physical powers, you don't even gotta touch him, and I think Gojo will win.
Physical stats would allow him to bully him up close. And Homelander might just have a mental breakdown trying to figure out why invisible slashes keep tearing him apart if he were to go up against Sukuna. If you couldn't tell already, Homelander just does not stack up to the Jujutsu Kaisen universe in any way, shape, or form, even when running the ones with the characters. And if this were to be a team deathmatch style fight, as this video was framed, that ass whooping just gets worse. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more power scaling content, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and check out these videos where I put other characters from other universes up.
We out with another.